Tammy, Wendy, Kyle, Lisa Boo, Beth Bearclaw, Astral B, Matthew, Tracy Reed, Rochelle. And thank you, Wendy, for that super sticker, as well as being a member of the Wolfpack for 8 months. Hearts for Wendy, guys, as you trickle in. D Horror Girl, what is up? Julissa, Rochelle, how's everyone doing? Joanne, how's it going? How's everyone's Thursday going, or Friday, depending on where you're at, is going? And while we wait a few minutes for people to trickle in, did anyone see any interesting horror movies? I saw, what did I watch? Oh, I finally got a chance to catch Late Night with the Devil. It is on Shudder. I believe it's still in theaters. I actually it was interesting. Rochelle's tired. Julissa goes, no, not yet. I want to see Abigail. That one looks interesting. I haven't gotten a chance to see that one. Did you guys check out the trailer for The Exorcism starring Russell Crowe? While I wait for people to trickle in here. Prime has some good horror movies. I haven't checked, but usually they do. Wendy saw it, and it is on her playlist. It does look like I was able to catch the trailer before I started the stream here. It looks badass. And I'm a fan of... No, it's actually... I think it's just a standalone. I think it is. Here, I've got an article to share with you guys about it while we wait for people to come in. D Horror Girl has been watching old cheese horror on Tubi. Tubi. I keep forgetting about Tubi. Tubi has some good films on it too. While we wait for people to come in, I'll start off with this. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. Russell Crowe is a horror movie actor who begins to unravel the Exorcism trailer. I think it has nothing to do with the Pope's Exorcist, which I still haven't had a chance to watch yet. The genre horror film from director Joshua John Miller will see an exclusive theatrical release beginning on June 7th. The trailer for the latest take on the demon extraction genre dropped on Thursday with the first look at The Exorcism, which stars Oscar-winning Russell Crowe as an actor who begins to unravel while filming a supernatural horror film. The Exorcism from director Joshua John Miller will see an exclusive theatrical release beginning on June 7th. And the go-around in the genre that has captivated audiences since the 1973's The Exorcist, Crowe is joined by Ryan Simpkins as his character's estranged daughter, who begins to suspect her father's troubles are more sinister than a relapse into former addiction issues. Per the logline, Crowe stars as Anthony Miller, a troubled actor who begins to unravel while shooting a supernatural horror film. The cast is rounded out with several notable supporting actors, including Sam Worthington, Avatar: The Way of the Water, Chloe Bailey, Praise This, Adam Goldberg, The Equalizer, and David Hyde Pierce, Frasier. Miller teamed up with co-writer M.A. Fortin on The Exorcism, their second film together. The two shared a writing credit on the upcoming project and the hit series Queen of the South. The duo also wrote and produced The Final Girls. Miller began his decade-long career in the Hollywood with a role in Catherine Bigelow's vampire genre favorite Near Dark. Queen of the South. Isn't Queen of the South that one? Hold on. The one that I'm thinking of. Yes! Oh my god, Queen of the South was amazing. If you guys, it's like um it's not horror related, but it's about a woman who gets involved and raises through the ranks in the drug trade, and it's actually kind of interesting. If you guys haven't checked that out, I think it's still on Netflix. The horror girl says Pope's exorcist was meh. Jennifer Marie, how's it going? Rochelle goes, I watched all 3 seasons of A Discovery of Witches. D horror girl likes the old slasher films. Actually, that's my favorite. I guess you could say subgenre in horror or the slasher films. Miller said the film idea stemmed from his childhood spent watching his father, Jason Miller, playing the doomed father, Karras, flinging himself out a window at the climax of The Exorcist. If that wasn't haunting enough on its own, my dad never shied away from telling me stories of just how cursed the movie was, the mysterious fires that plagued the production, the strange deaths, the lifelong injuries, and the list went on and on. The lore of any cursed film has captivated me ever since, he said in a statement. With The Exorcism, we wanted to update the possession movie formula. Heretic man rescues woman from forces she's too weak and simple to battle herself. For a world where no one group owns goodness and decency over another, he continued. We were gifted with an extraordinary cast and creative team to tell a story about how we're all vulnerable to darkness, to perpetu- perpu- darkness, to perpetuating it if we fail to face our demons. North American rights to the horror film, formerly known as the Georgetown Project, has been acquired by the independent distributor Vertical. It was produced by Miramax, Kevin Williamson, and Outer Banks Entertainment. I got a chance. If I'm not gonna play the trailer because YouTube likes to strike channels for playing trailers. But if you get a chance, check out the trailer. It looks badass. It's basically what it says. Russell Crowe is an actor in a horror movie, and it happens to open up about one of the actresses getting saged, and another actress asks like, why are you doing that? And she's like, she says something to the effect like, how movie sets are, like the subject matter, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh yeah, because of like, how which the poltergeist and the omen and all that, and how they've been cursed. So it kind of follows that kind of tone. So it looks kind of cool. Tammy, what's up? Tyrana, how's it going? So if you haven't gotten a chance, check out that trailer. It looks pretty good. Looks like it comes out June 7th. I've always loved Russell Crowe. Ever since I saw him in The Gladiator way back in the day. But it does look interesting. Daniel! Daniel, the funny thing is, I seriously was gonna say Ghost in the Nudes just as a joke, as my title, like my cover photo for this stream, but I didn't think YouTube would fancy it, so I changed it just as a laugh. But then I was like, no, YouTube's gonna see the word nude and then go all crazy because they're pesky like that. I got something else. Yes, Daniel, specifically titled for you. That was what the purpose of it was for. I've got this video I saw. It's in the local news here. It's not really horror related, but I wanted to share it with you guys. Thank you, D Horror Girl. I appreciate that. Love your spooky decor. It's not really spooky related, but it has something to do with animals, and it kind of upset me because I do love animals, and I just wanted to share it with you guys before we get into the other stuff. Um, Give me a second here as I pull it up. Ah, no problem, Daniel. So basically, this poor dog was abandoned, and I'll play the video. This poor dog was abandoned, and I know it's not horror related, but it kind of hit my core with this one. So the woman just abandons her dog on the street, and the dog starts chasing after her. So
it is hard to watch video of a dog appearing to chase its owners after witnesses say it was dumped from the car near Long Beach. Makala Medina covers Long Beach for us. He talked with a woman who actually helped to rescue the pup. Back, this is hard.
Yeah, this is hard, but certainly a good ending to this story. She now calls that pup Chico, a 40-pound.
I mean, this makes me mad because thank you, Anne, for gifting 5 memberships. Welcome to Leia Lux, Project Metal Music, I Need to Fish, and Panda Bear to the Wolfpack. Hearts for Anne and all the new Wolfpack members. Thank you, Anne. I appreciate this. This actually irritates the hell out of me because that dog did not deserve, or that human did not deserve that, or that woman, I should say, does not deserve that dog. That makes me mad because when you have a pet, it's like for life. And a lot of us treat our family or our pets like a family member. So this really irritates me. And apparently someone grabbed the pup and rescued the pup, thank goodness.
Bull mixed terrier. Just yesterday, he was running up the streets here. Witnesses say chasing his owner's car. Today, little Chico has a foster family.
The owner literally is leaving him. Look! Oh my God!
Just off Cherry and PCA to Lexus
that's so irritating.
Speeds away as the dog chases behind.
Mira, pobre perro! The dog is being left.
Their dog.
When I watched that video, it broke my heart. I could not stop crying. I couldn't keep the dog out of my mind.
24-year-old Destiny Gomez watched it on her Instagram feed and was determined to help.
I have a dog myself, and she means the world to me, so I couldn't imagine, like actually dumping her.
She messaged the woman who recorded the video, a food delivery driver,
and it's
who
kind
did
of
not want to be interviewed.
funny that the car doesn't have plates on it.
Lexus pushed the dog out of the car and for blocks drove away. They recorded video as a little guy was trying to jump back in.
But I'm very thankful she took that video, because if she didn't, I would have never known, and that dog would have still been in the streets.
Instead, Destiny and her boyfriend drove around the area where the video was taken for hours. They also posted on social media, and with the help of some amateur online detectives, they finally found the dog.
We also got coordinates of streets, like where someone saw him. So they were like, can you go there? My boyfriend went, and he actually found him next to this house.
They were able to secure the dog, feed him, and even take him to a friend who's a groomer to clean him up. Destiny and her boyfriend have done this type of rescue effort before, and with their network of dog lovers, it was only a matter of hours before they found a
Look
foster
at how
parent
cute
for
he is.
Chica.
Like, he
Usually
didn't
whenever I
deserve
find
that.
an animal, I'll reach out to rescues because that's the best option for the dog.
It certainly was for Chico, who took a walk with his new foster parent by the ocean this morning. A far cry from 24 hours earlier, where he was desperately
really?
trying
Why would
to
you dump
chase
him?
owners that left him behind.
People have been DMing me saying that they want him and they can pick him up today, but I really want to go through a rescue first.
Yeah, she thinks that's a safe way to go, but it's nice for Chico. He's finally wanted by a lot of folks and not those owners who might have dumped him here on the road. Meantime, we are told by Destiny she really thinks he's going to find a forever home very soon. We're live in Long Beach. I'm Makala Medina, NBC 4 News.
It is hard to watch.
That is sad. I guess apparently it happened yesterday, but I just recently saw it pop up on my social media, and who would do that? That dog looks so sweet. Even after being dumped, I know someone mentioned in the chat, even after dumped, he was still being loyal. So thank goodness for that woman, and she took the time to ask for help to look for him, and now he's being taken care of. But still, that, and unfortunately there's no plate on that car. So it's like you can't see who did it. So, and I don't understand how anyone could do that. Like, honestly, that dog looks so cute and sweet. And goes, "Oh my god, so sad. I love my fur baby." D Horror Girl goes, "Kudos to Dusty for rescuing that baby." Wendy goes, "I had a squirrel for almost 3 years. I syringe fed him." Rochelle goes, "Very nice foster parents." Lisa Boo, "Heartbreaking. How could they do that?" I just don't understand how people could do that. We have a dog that was dumped here. A guest is taking care of it. I was petting him today and the leash broke. 20 minutes later, another guest is yelling at me that I cut the cable leash. Oh my god, drama. Joanne goes, "My 2 dogs were rescues." Anne goes, "Why do people suck so bad?" D Horror Girl goes, "All my pets are rescues." Chris, how's it going? Jennifer Maria, "Could never just dump my baby boy Frankie like that." Delalux goes, "Unbelievable." Rooster, how's it going? I just don't understand. Like, at least, why are you gonna dump them off in the street? I mean, at least take them to, I mean, if push comes to shove, it still sucks though for the dog, but if push comes to shove, at least take it somewhere safe. Like a rescue. Or I try to avoid the pound because I don't like the pound, but at least a rescue. You know what I mean? Like, so the dog is safe, but obviously that person didn't give a rat's ass. Whoa! Daniel goes through all of this. The original owner said he would pew pew it. What? Wow, yes, he said that. I also found out from animal control that it is your property animal and you are allowed to. What? If it's your property, you're allowed to pew pew them? What? And it's legal? What, Daniel? Tyrannicals people are awful, poor dog. Daniel also continues, "I can't believe the animal control told me that if it's legal to shoot your, or to pew pew your own dog, whether it's sick or not." That's, yeah, I agree with you, Lisa Boo. That's nuts. What? I wonder if that's in the whole state of California or just in your county. That's crazy, Daniel. I agree with you, Chris. That is sick. No animals deserve. I even feel bad when I see hikers. Like the other day when I was telling you that story, when I saw the man beating a snake that was off the path, mind you, and he was like smashing him with his hiking pole. I'm like, what? What? The snake was in the brush off the trail. Like, leave it alone. D Horror Girl, I've never heard of such a thing. Me neither. I don't know, Daniel, if it is or if it's just like in your area. if it's a if it's like to your county in California or if it's in the entire state. That's crazy. I don't know if it's a law or not. I've never heard of it. But I'm just curious if that's just like in your area only or if it's the entire state of California. That's crazy. But it just feels for me. It's like it's just, I mean, at least if you really do not want your pet, it's still sad, but at least make sure he's in a safe place. Don't leave him in a trafficy area on an intersection. D Horror Girl goes, "I would think that's animal cruelty related. I'm from Maryland." Daniel's in Northern California. I'm in SoCal, so I'm not sure. I've never heard of that, but it might be different up north. I'm not sure. But that is crazy. I would think the same thing, D-Horror Girl. Like, it's cruelty to animals. And I know they upped the punishment here in the state for that, so that just makes no sense to me. Joanne goes, "Whenever I've seen a snake, it was quickly moving away from me." Same with me. I've seen snakes and they're going along their way. They've never bothered me. Daniel goes, "He told me in person it's okay that I don't know." What? You know what? He might be, I don't know. That seems far-fetched. I have never heard of that. That seems a little too far-fetched. And crazy. Wendy's like, "I could do without snakes." Yeah, but my problem is if they're not bothering you, leave them alone. We took their home. I know Joanne, it happens a lot on farms around here. It happens because we get a lot of snakes in my area. And I get a lot of people, they post it on social media. "I found this rattlesnake in my backyard." Yeah, Daniel, that is like a little far-fetched. I feel like that just does not seem right because I know I could have sworn in the state of California that they upped the law for the punishment, not the law, the punishment for cruelty for animals. Like leaving, because a lot of people like to leave their dogs in a car in the summertime with the windows up here, which I think is, I don't know how people could do that either. Rochelle goes, "Did any of you happen to catch that octopus that laid about 50 baby eggs? A father and son had a pet octopus. I think they're not going to sell the babies, but they want to give them away." No, I did not. Oh, Daniel, that is super cool. Julissa goes, "Yes, it's 3 years, but Daniel is correct." No way, Julissa. Wendy goes, "A snake in my nail room where I crashed, woke up to a snake 4 feet, pics. I released it down to our creek." Yeah, that I agree with. Like, at least put it somewhere where, because we're living with them. We need to live with them in harmony. Oh, Julissa looked it up. No way. It is real. Julissa just looked it up, and then what Daniel was saying about if an animal, a dog is on your property, you could pew pew them, whether they're sick or not. What? Lisa Boo, I agree with you. Neglect and cruelty of an animal is horrid. Whoa, that's horrid. All right, guys, I got my next. I still can't believe that what Daniel says is real. Oh my god! Thank you, Julissa, for looking that up. I agree with you. Tyrannic cruelties to animals are so sad. This one's from my next article. We're kind of going with the flow. This is from the Huff Post, and it goes, "My patients tell me they've had a paranormal experience. I believe them. I had one too." And it's written by Scott Jansen. For years, I didn't tell the story. I came up with what I thought was a rational explanation and buried it away. Tank's life had been full of conflicts and strife. Now he's stuck in a wheelchair on his back porch with me, a hospice social worker, peppering him with questions. He's pondering my query about why he's feeling peace about his impending death. His eyes soften as he motions with his head toward the workshop near the back fence. You remember me telling you about my older boy? He asked. The one that died by S? I asked. Yeah, I remember. If you count my old man, I was the second worst father that ever lived. Most of my life, I figured I'd go straight to hell when I died. What? I don't argue from what he told me. He was a lousy father, verbally and physically abusive to his kids, spending his paychecks on booze and drugs, leaving each of his 3 wives to fend for themselves and do their business best to protect whichever of his children were in their care. You still think you're going to hell? I asked. He shakes his head and I ask, what changed? I'm getting to that, he says, looking again at his workshop. After little Tank passed, I went into a spiral, drinking, getting into fights, mouthing off to cops, mostly blaming myself for his death, thinking it should have been me that died instead of him. Last time I saw him alive, I told him to get out of my house or I'd pew-pewed him. Yeah, my God, this man is ruthless. He looks down, his voice crackling. Guess he thought he'd save me the trouble. I wait for him to continue. One day, I decide to do the world a favor. Not that anyone would have noticed. I took what? This is getting to a dark turn, guys. I took my pew pew, which was a 45, and walked out to the workshop to call it a day. I remember crying and saying out loud how sorry I was for all the pain I've caused. Then I put the pew pew to my head. What happened? I asked. He shakes his head. Scott, you know I'm a damn liar. That's one of the few things I'm honest about. But what I'm about to tell you is no lie, and it wasn't my imagination. It's the pure tea truth. I nod. I was just about to squeeze the trigger when I heard little Tank's voice clear as you and me are talking. Clearer even. What did he say? I asked. Stop. He just said stop. I put the pew pew down and looked around. There was no one there, but I swear I felt some kind of presence over the corner where I kept my air compressor. That's where the voice came from. What do you mean by presence? I asked. Nothing I could see, but whenever I looked that direction, it felt warm and safe, which is not what I'm usually feeling, I said out loud. Tank, is that you? Then he said, kind of upbeat, it's not your time. Keep going for now. I'll see you again when it's your time, I promise. I froze for a second or two, then asked if he was mad at me, but that was it. He was gone. What do you make of it? I asked. For a minute, I thought I was going crazy, he said, looking away as though lost in thought. After a long pause, he clears his throat and continues. I once heard a so-called preacher say if you unalive yourself, it's a crime against God, and you might as well get ready for a ride through hellfire in a gasoline suit. That's been working on me, really working on me. Tank let me know he was safe and the preacher was a lying jackass. That's what I make of it. My boy came back to give me some peace. He ain't suffering for what he done or taking the heat for the way I screwed things up. Him promising to see me again took away any fear of death. I don't really know how to explain it. To many, Tank's report of a visit from a deceased loved one, his conviction that it was real, and the fact that it had brought him peace may sound strange, even unbelievable. After 30 years of working with people who are grieving and hearing dozens, many hundreds of reports like Tank's, I believe them. Whether one calls these experiences crisis apparitions, bereavement hallucinations, or after death communications, also known as ADCs, studies show that they are very common, especially in the year or so after a loved one dies. One meta study analyzing the research estimated that over the course of a lifetime, 30 to 35% of people will experience some kind of ADC. This holds true across culture, race, gender, education, socioeconomic status, and religious tradition or spiritual beliefs. As with Tank, most are comforted by these experiences, though some explain them away as imagination or quinkydink. Others find them disturbing, especially if they conflict with religious or Philosophical beliefs caused friction in relationships. For example, if a family and friends ridicule them or raise anxieties about one's mental health. Am I losing my mind? Most ADCs are less dramatic than tanks. It may be the smell of a deceased loved one's aftershave or feeling a familiar hug or hand on one shoulder. Bill and Judy Guggenheim have collected, analyzed, and archived thousands of firsthand ADC reports. In the book, Hello from Heaven, they conclude, and others have confirmed, that these experiences take multiple forms, including hearing a loved one's voice, feeling a touch, smelling a fragrance, visions of sightings in which the deceased person appears to be present, hyper real dreams, and twilight experiences. During altered states of consciousness, such as when awakening or going into sleep. There may be perceived messages associated with physical phenomenon, e.g., lights, spontaneous turning on or off, and objects falling from shelves. Or there may be events with symbolic meanings, including the strange behavior of birds or changes in the natural world, like the appearance of a rainbow that seems synchronized with thoughts or feelings related to the deceased. There are even reports of out of body ADCs where some reports visitations in a deceased loved one in an alternate transpersonal setting. The Guggenheims also found accounts like tanks in which the deceased apparently acts to protect a loved one. Skeptics often dismiss such reports as imagination, wishful thinking, coinkydinks, stress induced hallucinations, or dissociative states, possibly related to grief or fatigue. Others post underlying mental illness or even the influence of demonic forces. I get it. This stuff can be hard to believe. There's no doubt that some accounts can be chalked up to the imagination of those who are hurting and yearning to reconnect with or receive assurances from a departed loved one. But after decades of listening to people who are grieving, my guess is that many are real events that embody an enduring connection between a living person and one who has died. A recent study by researcher Ken Vincent, which analyzed 1,667 reports compelled by the after death community. They had to add the 67 just so it wouldn't be 666. After Death Communication Research Foundation found that 20.1% met the standard for having evidentiary proof behind a first-hand, admittedly subjective report. These lines of evidence include people who had ADCs from loved ones they did not yet know were dead, apparitions that appear to multiple witnesses, and apparitions that convey knowledge unknown to experiencers that is later proven to be true. Moreover, ADCs can occur years after a death when a person is no longer actively grieving. They can happen to people who disbelieve such things are possible, undermining the argument that it is merely wishful thinking. The look on Tank's face is uncharacteristically vulnerable. This experience is important to him. He fidgets with a cigarette as he asks if I've ever heard anything like this before. Yeah, I say, from lots of folks. There's something I don't tell him, though. When I was much younger, I experienced an EDC myself. Skeptics might protect or protest that this suggests I'm biased in favor of a belief that consciousness survives death and that our loved ones can cross the terminal divide to give comfort and reassurance. It is a valid point, but hold on, it's not what you may be thinking. It was April of 1986. I was a graduate student in the history department of Syracuse University, focusing my studies on the way elites across time have used multidimensional forms of violence and power to subjugate and exploit marginalized groups and to push narratives that blame them for their own victimization. I was a hard nosed and cynical as it got. There was no life after death, no tunnel of light leading into the arms of family and friends who already died, and there was no freaking way that your dead grandpa was going to stop by for a cup of tea. Dead meant dead. Anyone who thought otherwise was either fooling themselves or trying to fool you. It was after midnight on one of those snowy upstate New York nights. I was sound asleep when I was jolted awake by the loudest siren I've ever heard. It was coming. I know this sounds nuts. From the upper left-hand corner of my bedroom. Then two siren pulses, the kind you hear when an ambulance or police cruiser is rolling in into or out of an active scene. I jumped up, adrenaline pulsing, fist clenched, ready for anything. Realizing that there was no one breaking into my apartment, I took a deep breath and listened for a television, thinking maybe a neighbor was watching one of those cop shows with the volume all the way up. It was dead silent. Was I dreaming? I had no memory of being in a dream. Besides, the siren had woken me up instantly and was still audible when I was wide awake. As my mind grasped for an explanation, I heard what sounded like an ambulance door opening and a gurney being rolled across asphalt. Then a voice, "Hurry, get over here!" Thinking there was trouble in the parking lot, I pulled back the shade and peered out into the night, expecting to see an ambulance crew working on someone. Nothing, just parking lot lights reflecting eerily off ice crystals that seemed to be floating in the air. As though I wasn't awake enough, I ran outside barefoot, thinking someone was playing a prank and hoping to catch them in the act. Inwardly, I was hoping for an explanation this mundane. Again, nothing. Back inside, I did a quick mental status check, looking for issues with long or short term memory, doing math equations, checking my balance, motor coordinations, looking at my pupils in the mirror, searching for indications of neurological issues. Everything checked out. I ran through psychiatric diagnosis I could remember from my days as a psychology undergraduate, trying to remember any that could cause auditory hallucinations. The one that stood out was brief reactive psychosis. I did my inventory of all the stress I was under, teaching 4 sessions a week in support of one of those 500 student American history courses, pain in the ass professors, a heavy course load, too many cheeseburgers, too little sleep, stressful, yes, but not enough to cause psychosis. Before going back to bed, I opened the refrigerator hoping to find something soothing. There was nothing but an unopened bottle of soda. I turned the cap, took a few swigs, and thought, when I wake up later, I might think this was a dream. Look in the refrigerator. The bottle has been opened. Sure enough, when I woke up, my first thought was, did that really happen? I checked the refrigerator and a chill went down my back. Minutes later, the phone rang. It was my dad. My uncle, with whom I'd always been close, had been killed by a drunk driver in California. I asked what time. When adjusted for time zones, it was the same time I'd been woken up by the sirens. Ooh, it's trippy. That was a long, intense day with the little time to think about these strange events. As night fell, I was sitting alone at my kitchen table, exhausted, thinking about how my uncle, a musician, and I had always connected over music. We'd had a particular fun bantering about whether the Beatles were really the iconic band he thought they were, or just a bunch of shallow, media hype bums whose main contribution was to line the pockets of promoters and record companies, as was my assessment. As a wave of sadness rolled through me, a beat up duct tape radio suddenly cut on. It was one of those early prototypes that combined a radio with one of those newfangled cordless phones, over which I frequently picked up CB radio traffic. There must have been a short in the wire, since every now and then it would spontaneously cut on or off. This time, it cut on right as the first notes of a Beatles song, Let It Be, were playing. Not one to wax metaphysical. I was conscious that as I absorbed the words about times of trouble and letting things be, I felt a deep calm and sense of peace. It was as if I was being held in a warm, protective blanket of energy. As soon as the song stopped, the radio cut off. Weird, but true. Unlike Tink, I was not comforted. I was freaked out. Not because it scared me or caused me to question my sanity, but because I had no explanatory box into which I could put such an unusual experience. No way to tell a story so at odds with my worldview. So, for years, I didn't tell the story. I came up with what I thought was a rational explanation and buried it away. That explanation. What, Rochelle? Rochelle, I did not. As I take a break from this, Rochelle, I have not heard about that. I know, Rochelle, they do have where you pay for YouTube, but they have a free option. But I have not heard that. She's asking if I put these videos anywhere else because YouTube is talking about charging a monthly fee like Netflix. They already do, but it's for the premium. But it's not, I haven't heard that about YouTube at all. You do have that option to pay like Netflix. No, I know you could do that with no ads, but there still be you'd have to pay to get no ads, which is the premium, and then you get like I don't know what else you get with it because I've never subscribed to it. But it's still, as far as I know, it's still gonna remain free. I have never heard about that. I have not. And I would think that would have appeared on the that's like big. That would have appeared somewhere. Marcella, how's it going? The explanation, I convinced myself that the siren and voices in the parking lot never happened. I was close with my uncle. I reasoned, rationalized, and there must have been an unconscious part of me that wanted to believe we were connected in the moments he died. I must have just made it up amid the shock and disorientation of grief. And the radio and that mystical sense of peace, they were coinkydinks. I knew the possibility of the radio cutting on and off as just the right time and playing that song was likely a 0.0000001%, but that was enough for me. The perceived peace I felt must have been an unconscious, in the moment desire to make something out of nothing, to falsely attribute meaning to the song as though sent from beyond rather than a simple garden variety 1 in 10 millionth quinkydink. For years, that was my story, and though I never told it to anyone but myself, I stuck to it. Then I became a hospice social worker and started meeting people like Tank. Lots of them. At first, I used the same tired psychiatric labels and Procrustean explanations on them that I used on myself, but they seemed so damn genuine, honest, and credible. I scoured scholarly journals for research that had been done on these kinds of reports, expecting to find a closed case that provided my bias true. Bias is true. In the early 1990s, there wasn't much, but I found a few students that purported to suggest that these reports are attributed to psychological or physiological or psychological factors. For better or worse, though, I knew enough about research design, statistical analysis, and signs of potential experimenter bias to see that these students were not convincing. I came across an often cited 1971 study by W. Dewey Rees showing that ADCs, he called them hallucinations, reported by roughly half of the 293 research participants who survived the death of a spouse. Rees concluded that these experiences are normal during times of grief and usually have positive meaning for those who've had them. Heather, whatever, what's up? I came away with my head spinning and my assumptions that there would be worn chain of evidence supporting my reductionist viewpoint shattered. Annoyingly, the people making these reports continue to seem like reliable sources. Many, like me, had no expectations that such things were possible and had fished around for conclusions other than those suggesting the paranormal. They were not gullible. They were able to think critically. For most of them, the experience held such poignant meaning that it started to feel psychologically violent for me to not take the report seriously. Who was I to try taking their experiences away or denying its meaning? It's been 30 years since I first visited the health science Sciences Library at the University of North Carolina looking for proof that these reports could be explained away. These days, I stay abreast of the evolving and accumulating research, but the debate over what is behind EDCs is no closer to being solved than it was back in the early 1990s. Are these experiences supernatural? I believe, I am a total believer. This guy is kind of fighting against his. I feel like he had an experience, but he is yet trying to find the scientific reasonings behind it. Like he's still 50-50. Even with everything he's seen, he's still, I feel like, yeah, his scientific brain is still clouding. I feel, which is nothing wrong with that. It's always good to question and be skeptical. But I feel like if you have an experience and it was right in front of you, like, come on. Are these experiences supernatural? Are they hallucinations? Frankly, I no longer think much about what caused them. I focused on what they mean to people who've had them, and I trust them to decide for themselves what it means. In fact, my understanding of that snowy April night has changed completely thanks to people like Tank. Tank looks me dead in the eye as if saying, it's important to me that you believe me, but if you don't, I don't give a crap. But really, I do. He coughs on some of the foul-looking liquid he's been swilling from a mason jar and then says, what do you think happened out there in the shed? I shrugged my shoulders. What do you think happened, Tank? He holds up a bony fist, playfully insinuating that he's going to hit me and grunts. You've been running that social worky, what do you think, BS for weeks. What do you think happened? Tank, I say your boy came back and gave you a message. That's what I think. And then it ends there. I mean, maybe toward the end he believes, but I felt like throughout the article he was just fighting with his scientific self. But I've always believed I don't need no scientific explanation as to why I've had an experience. Wendy goes, thinks way too much with a science degree. Yes. Or like when he studied psychology, like he's going too much, he's analyzing too much, but it looks like toward the end, like he was more of a believer. But for years, he kind of was like, no, this is what happened. This is the reason why I heard these sirens. This is why it was just a quidinky dink. It was my mind, you know, making me feel better about a bad situation. But it's like, come on. Heather, whatever goes right, he doesn't want to be open to the alternative. Heather, whatever goes, also says if I hear or see things, I don't think I'm a psycho. I don't either. Daniel goes, question everything. Nerd report in the house. I felt like he didn't look outside the box. He was looking too inside of the box, trying to decipher if he was going crazy. And then toward the end, toward the end, because finally he comes to the conclusion, like, I'm not the only one with these experiences. A lot of residents I have worked with had these experiences or similar experiences, so there's got to be something to it. Guys, what do you think about the author? Jennifer Murray goes, he's gaslighting himself. Daniel goes, open up, let it out, tell someone. Exactly. Even outlandish or how crazy it can be. Say something. And then maybe that person you're talking to had a similar experience and you'd be like, well, what do you think it is? You know, kind of thing. Not try to go through a psych test to make sure that what you saw wasn't a mental breakdown. Rochelle goes, he's definitely interested in his own throttle. Wendy goes, better out than in. True, it is. Lisa Boo, I agree. Truth will set you free. But it was kind of an interesting article because it kind of gave, I felt like he was still, it kind of gave the side of a skeptic in a way. Because even though he had an experience, he still was denying it. And he was still trying to debunk it. But then toward the end, he kind of was like, wait a minute. Daniel goes burying the truth in scientific data. That's what he did. And that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to find every which way another that could explain what he went through and what others have gone through. Wendy goes, that's what a logical mind would do. That's true. True. But I don't think, even if I saw something, I don't think I would start thinking that I had a mental breakdown or anything. Alright, guys, my next article, to keep in with Ghost in the Nudes. If you know, you know. Heather, whatever goes, I ran away from an ex with a baby in a stroller and a tiny bit of money. I was walking. A nun came up to me and said, I don't go out at night, but God told me to find someone who is in trouble. Is that you? What? Whoa! That is crazy. That is crazy, Heather, whatever. So then my next article is from Coast to Coast. I haven't read from this article. I know there isn't, Rochelle. There's not an emoji for Ghost in the Nude. So this one's from Coast to Coast, and it's I haven't read an article from this site in a while. Security guard photographs a ghost at a historic museum in Mexico. An eerie photo circulating online seemingly shows a figure in the window of a museum in Mexico long after the building had closed for the night. The spooky picture, which was posted on social media earlier this week and can be seen below, was reportedly snapped by a security guard outside the historic railway museum in the city of San Luis Potosi or Potosi. In the image, one could see what appears to be a woman dressed in a black and looking out a window of the building that had closed to the public hours earlier. As very often happens with potential ghost photos, the image quickly went viral in Mexico, with some suggesting that the figure in the photo is genuine ghost, while more skeptical observers argue that it is merely a clever hoax or perhaps a trick of the light and shadow. Remarkably, the furrow surrounding the picture managed to catch the attention of San Luis Potosi's mayor, Ricardo Gallardo Cardona, who marveled at the weird image on social media. What do you think the security guard filmed at the window of the museum? Weigh in with your thoughts. So this is the picture. I don't know if I can make it bigger. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger so you guys can see it. All right, so this is the said photo. What do you think it could be? Jennifer Marigo's a filing cabinet with something on top of it. Daniel goes a dresser with a round vase or top. Or it could be an actual person. They were saying that the museum was closed, but still, it could still be a person. Heather, whatever goes, someone does right edge look crispier. That could be an actual person. Rochelle goes, definitely a person. Heather, whatever goes, looks like a person. Matthew, could be a book because with something on top of it. Could be a bookcase with something on top. Wendy goes, not a person I want to meet. Daniel goes, it's an actual. If it's an actual, then it's an actual Grim Reaper. Heather, whatever goes, I see eyes, especially it's right. Chris Barr goes, creepy person. Kyle goes, owl. Heather, whatever, doesn't care if it's real or not. She's not going in there. Daniel goes, a pretty squared, boring looking person. That's what I mean, that's my thing of it. It could be a person. Cause I mean, it is solid, like all the way through. It's not, I mean, even the face is solid. And then it's at nighttime. So whenever you take a picture at nighttime, sometimes it's not the greatest. So it's grainy where the face is. Or they could have zoomed in to take it. So to me, it could be a person. Even though the museum is closed, it still could be a person. Wendy goes, show me the sickle. Tyrannus also says could be someone. I mean, not to say that a ghost is always going to be, see-through. Wendy goes, the lighting is greenish. It's probably coming from, like, maybe the window has tint to it. But we don't know what kind of camera it was used on, or cell phone or whatnot. Heather, whatever goes, it's tall. Yeah, or it could be a very low window. Jennifer Murray goes, I'm not convinced this is a ghost. I'm not either, Jennifer Murray. I'm with you on this one. And I'm pretty open, but I feel like this could have, even though, like it said, the museum was closed, and I know I keep saying this, but even though the museum was closed, I still think that somebody could have been there, and the security guard or whoever was could have been mistaken and not know that a person may have stayed over. Kyle goes pareidolia. It's what you want to make it to what you want it to be, what you think it is. Joanne goes, not a ghost. Jennifer Murray goes, it's too box shaped, making think it's furniture blocking the window. Oh yeah, it could be too. I didn't think of that. Like a shelf with something on top of it, like some of you had said earlier. And what Daniel just said, it really looks like a file cabinet from a foam with a foam head with a wig on it. Possibility. Heather whatever goes, I think stop looking at me, weirdo. But then Heather, whatever, said earlier that she doesn't care what it is. She's not going in to the building. She'll have the security guard go into the building for her. She'll be like, nope, you can go. Chris Barber goes, the thing has pointy shoulders. Yeah, it's what you guys have been saying. Yeah, it's kind of, you're right. It's squared. Jennifer Murray goes, the security guard got bored at work and wanted to F with everyone. No, he just wanted to go viral. Thanks, Rochelle. Always good to see you in the chat. Kyle goes, earn your paycheck, dude. Dusty, how's it going? The more I look at it, I'm kind of agreeing with you guys that it's like a file cabinet or a shelf with something on top of it to make it look like it's a head with hair. But I do not think it's a spirit or anything. Pearl Jan goes, looks like the movie's version of Skeletor. Heather, whatever goes, it's the only sharp edges in the photo. Yeah, it's too squared. To make it be. And maybe Jennifer Marie is right that the security guard was bored. He's working nights. He's bored. He wanted to make his evening exciting. So he posted it on wherever he posted it. So that way he could go viral. Daniel goes, the window next to the head even looks warped if we're calling that a head. Jennifer Marie goes, the security guard wants hazard pay for working with the demons. Kyle goes, it's too cubed. Yeah, maybe Jennifer Marie, maybe he was trying to get a raise. He's like, look, boss, ghost. Daniel goes, it's a Roblox man. He wanted to get off the job. Maybe he doesn't want to work nights anymore, so he made up this story that he saw a ghost so that he wouldn't have to work nights or enter the building anymore. I don't blame him. Working nights is rough. I would try to get out of that. Unless he has no choice but to work nights, then that's all right, but it's rough. Kyle goes, do the toast test. You know, if the devil is near, if the toast lands jam side down. Jennifer Murray goes, by trust issues, would believe he made it all up so he could get some benefit out of his job. We got a little bit of UFO news in the news. This one is from the New York Post, and it goes, possible UFO over New York City baffles passengers flying into LaGuardia. An airplane passenger took flying saucer speculations to new heights when she spotted a possible UFO soaring above the Big Apple, baffling experts and sending federal aviation officials on a fact-finding mission Thursday. Michelle Reyes was on a commercial airline flight above LaGuardia Airport on March 25th when she captured video footage of a mysterious flying cylinder out of her plane window, she said on Facebook. The first thing I did was email the FFA to let them know what I saw, she told News Nation Wednesday. The FFA probably thought you were crazy, girl. Maybe it was a safety hazard, but unfortunately I haven't heard back from them. They didn't acknowledge my email. She said another person on the flight saw the out-of-this-world object and was stunned. It's a little nerve-wracking that someone else saw what I saw, she said. Thomas Wertman, the state director of the Mutual UFO Network in Ohio, reviewed the footage for the Post and said the dark object was traveling at roughly 2,500 feet and was relatively close to the plane as it prepared for landing. The object's altitude, shape, and location near a major commercial flight path appears to rule out that it could be a news helicopter, a drone, or a military-operated aircraft, Wortman said. Drones aren't supposed to fly at that altitude, at least legally, he said. If it were something related to military defense or law enforcement, you normally wouldn't see it so close to a major flight lane. That could be a potential hazard, said Wortman, who has spent years studying the skies of evidence of interplanetary visitors. The usual round shape of the object struck him as intriguing because it debunks the theory that it was a second plane filmed at an odd angle. It does not appear to be a commercial aircraft because I don't see features like wings or tail, he said. The plane Reyes was aboard was roughly 15 minutes away from LaGuardia Airport, likely traveling 230 miles per hour when the video was shot, he said. Ultimately, the footage doesn't appear to be doctored. And I will play the video. Hopefully there is a video. I will play it. If not, I'll show you this photograph after I finish the article. It is a very intriguing image, he said. It needs more research. There are often theories he can't rule out, such as high-flying wildlife and weather balloons, without metadata from the footage and other information. Metadata would help him glean clues about the direction the plane was flying and the exact time of the sighting. A Federal Aviation Administration official said Thursday the agency has no reports from pilots about the mysterious incident. The flight number and times were not clear Thursday. Reyes didn't immediately return a request for comment. Of course not. Let me see if there is a video. Is it this one? No. I think it's this. Guys, what do you think that could be? Pearl Jam goes, it's too fast to be a drone, a bug, or a bird. It's pretty cool. Daniel goes, black balloon deflating. Heather, whatever goes, it's a flying coffin. Pearl Jam goes, yes, I watched it. It's on News Nation. Looks legit. Hold on, I forgot to click off of the thing and it was still playing. Kyle goes, so instead of friends with benefits, it's ghosts with Kyle goes, that's one high frisbee. Jennifer Marie goes, little thing was super fast. Daniel goes, now that I saw the video, I don't know. It could have been sitting still on the plane, went by fast. I mean, it looks legit, but it could be anything. But it was going by super fast. Matthew goes, I've seen bugs go that fast when they're close to the camera. It could be anything. I mean, I want to believe, but I have yet to see one myself, so I'm still always skeptical when it comes to flying the saucers. I cannot talk today. But the flying saucer was giving me the tongue twister. I mean, when you're driving, bugs do go pretty quick to your windshield. So Kyle goes, flying plates. Pearl Jan saying it's too high in altitude to be any bug. Daniel goes, Joe Dirt 3, here we come. Still an interesting video. That's why I always like to share those, because I always like to see what people catch, because like I said earlier, I have yet to see one. So it's always cool to see who the things that people find on video. The fact that she told the FFA, I probably wouldn't have. And even I think Daniel had mentioned, I don't know who mentioned, someone mentioned in the chat that they probably get a lot of messages, which is true. They probably do, and that's the least of their worries. Kyle goes, don't panic, grab your towel. So yeah, that's a little crazy. Heather whatever goes, if you see one, run away. No, on the probe thing, I definitely will, but I'll try to catch some video first. Because I'll be like, see guys, I finally saw one. No, I do want to see one in the sky. Like, I want to see what all these people are seeing. I must not be in the right place at the right time. I do want to see one. Like, seriously. I do, because it'll cement some of these videos. Because most of the time when I do see something in the sky, I'm like, oh, it's a balloon. Which normally it is. It ends up being a balloon or something else, or a drone or something. Pearl Jam goes, it was E.T. coming back to visit Lou. But no, I seriously wish I could go out there and spot one in the sky, and I will definitely take video of it. And maybe at that point I'll find it more plausible. Kyle goes, probes will cost them $100 an hour. I'd be more expensive, Kyle. Heather whatever goes, no 10-foot aliens in my backyard. That guy in Vegas is looking at us. I believe him scared. The only thing I have a problem with the guy in Vegas is that they called the police first. I mean, I get it, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like if there were aliens in my backyard, I would not call the police. That would be the least of my worries, because I would think the police would think I'm crazy. So I would be in my backyard trying to figure out what it is. I'd be at a safe distance though, but I would be taking, video of it. That's probably my first instinct, would be pulling out my camera and taking video of it to show other people, then I'm not going crazy. Daniel goes, I've seen 2 in my life. First one, I was like that. Yes, that's real. Second, not sure. Had to be Nikki. How's it going? Heather, whatever goes, the cop said, call me again if you see anything else. They saw the light. I just feel like they would think I'm crazy if I called anybody. Daniel goes, I have video of the second one. Oh, that's cool, Daniel. Kyle is suggesting to call animal control first. I have a huge animal. It's about 10 foot tall. It's walking on 2 feet. Has these big, huge olive size, olive shaped eyes that are black. Daniel goes, it's stealing my loader out of my backyard. That's a good one, Daniel. Matthew goes, the Smithsonian says highest altitude, some butterflies have been observed flying at altitudes up to 20,000 feet. True, because when, like I said earlier, when bugs hit your windshield, they do go quick. Heather, whatever goes, I called animal control once. I said a goose had a fish hook in its beak. They said if you can catch it, we will come and get it. I found out what they meant. Butterflies are beautiful. I love butterflies. They are super cool. Heather, whatever, they're fast. You can't catch them. They are. They zoom by you like crazy. We are going to continue with some ghost stories. I'll read a few ghost stories from Reddit. I always like the ghost stories on Reddit. I always find them interesting. And then I'll open it up to questions and answers. I'll read a few stories and open it up to question and answers. Open it up to questions. Why do I always have to say questions and answers? So the first one is white thick cloud. The only problem with Reddit is that some of them are written poorly, so bear with me. White thick cloud hovering over bed. New Haven, Connecticut. So I moved to a new apartment back in 2019. Everything was fine for the first year, about 2 years in. I began waking up around 3 to 4 a.m. to a thick white cloud of smoke hovering in the corner of my room. Instantly, I thought the house was on fire, so I jumped up and got dressed and began to run outside. But I noticed the fire alarm wasn't going off when I turned back around to go in the house. When I turned back around to go in the house, the cloud of smoke disappeared. I did not feel threatened by it, but just the sight of this alarmed me. This went on for months. It would stop, then start randomly. I thought I was going to be able to catch it on video. I jumped up and grabbed my phone, and the cloud. Hold on here. Let me click on it. And the cloud of thick white cloud of smoke a few nights in a row. I asked family and friends what it could be. Some said maybe a death cloud. Others told me I was hallucinating. I took actions into my own hands and blessed my entire house. I have not seen the thick white cloud of smoke since, but occasionally it reappears. Any thoughts on what this could be? Heather, whatever goes lightning, raindrops, Casper. Bookstore Native American ghost. It took me a while to realize that what I saw must have been a ghost, but approximately 25 years ago, while I was working at an antiquarian bookstore in upstate New York, about 25 miles east of Rochester, I had my only direct visual interaction with a supernatural entity. I remember it very specifically because a few days before the owner of the bookstore had been in a minor accident and the insurance adjusters were at the shop, out in the back parking lot taking pictures of his van. It was about 9 a.m. The only other employees inside the store was positioned directly in the line of sight of this thing and swears, give me a second, guys, because the writing is a bit small. And swears she saw nothing. I entered the store and stood there talking to her briefly, and as I looked to my right down the classic literature section, I saw a very tall, very stoic man in full Native American regalia. I mean, feathered headdress, buckskin leggings, etc. I was surprised and didn't know how to react. He wasn't looking at the books on the shelf. He was standing there with his arms folded, looking directly at me. He may have nodded slightly. I nodded and finished talking to my coworker, but retreating to my data entry station in the back. He was real as day and not a hallucination. I was stone sober, having had only coffee that morning. A few hours later, when I was heading out to a coffee break, I casually asked my coworker again. This guy was directly in her line of sight from her position behind the counter, about the, pardon my 19-year-old political incorrectness, Indian chief who was in the store earlier, and she thought I was crazy. Upon further questioning, it became clear that she did not see him, though there was absolutely no way she couldn't have if he was an actual customer and not an entity or some sort. I remember getting almost annoyed with her because she is not the type to mess around. She's old New England stock and about the most honest person I've met. She swore there was nothing and probably thought I was on drugs. I should mention that the store was filled with not just books, but old books, including an edition of Athen, Athenius Kircher's Oedipus. Oh my God, I'm going to butcher this. Egypticus from the 1600 that is currently valued at $3 million, as well as an old hats from various time periods. The weird thing is the store burned down less than 2 weeks later. I sometimes wonder if the entity was trying to warn me about it. I don't know. It was definitely the strangest experience in my life. Naval Base Ghost Stories. This is my dad's story, so details may be a little foggy, but here goes. My dad's always worked as a security guard, whether at department stores, office buildings, etc., but for around 6 months, he worked night shifts at a pretty large naval base in the UK. This naval base is century old, with the first docks being constructed in the 12th century, so there's a whole lot of history on the site. He told me that one night he was working with one other guy. My dad was patrolling the parking lot, and the other guy was inside a security coex type building, like a trailer with large windows to look out. As he was finishing his patrol and returning to the coex, I know I'm saying that wrong, he could see his coworker sat in dim lighting writing on a notepad. Nothing out of the ordinary. However, the other half of the trailer was lit up entirely as though a fluorescent bulb was on, and stood in the light was a woman with a blonde ponytail and a silver puffer jacket, yelling angrily at his coworker, who was apparently oblivious. After watching for a few seconds in shock, my dad saw the light go out and the woman disappear. His coworker seemingly unaware of the entire event. My dad has always been a keen believer in ghosts, despite never experiencing anything, and I realize that there are many explanations for why he could have imagined the event, but I believe him when he saw what he saw. Other people working at this naval base offered my dad their own stories. The naval base has large fields of training and sports, which the security guards are required to patrol. One man claimed to see the figure of a woman in Victorian Edwardian style clothing with a large bonnet on. It was a foggy night, and the mist settled on the ground, and the man supposedly witnessed the woman move rapidly backwards away from him and disappeared, levitating, not walking, leaving no trail in the fog. Another guard patrolling locker rooms claimed to see a man in a Victorian, possibly earlier, traditional naval uniform who disappeared after a few seconds. It's possible to explain these things away as the sleep-deprived mind filling in the dark spaces. However, these people were all used to night shifts, all clear-headed and alert, so I'm inclined to believe them. I saw something I can't explain. When I was 10 years old, I saw something that, to this day, 6 years later, I cannot still understand at all. Me and my friends were outside playing, enjoying our time together, and for some context, the area I live in has one-way access, meaning the way you come in is the way you have to go out when you want to leave. And on this random day with my friends, Nate and Donnie, we saw an old school, completely white, double-decker bus drive past the road we were walking on, and we just stood still in utter confusion because the way the bus came into our area was impossible. It was physically couldn't drive into the area without driving through the entrance first, and it definitely did not do this. Inside of this bus, there were two people, a male driver dressed as if he was in the 20s. He was strangely completely white to pale skin, snow-colored hair, with all white clothes. But he wasn't the most interesting person on this bus. There was a woman extremely similar to him in that she was completely all white too, but she was a passenger and she was acknowledging us, waving at us. I was completely dumbfounded. I just stood there in awe. I know it doesn't sound like it was that much of a spectacle, but I can't explain. This bus had an aura that was completely captivating. These people on the bus did not seem threatening at all. They seemed benevolent and had a feeling of warmth about them. The whole situation must have lasted maybe 5 seconds at most. It was a lot to take in such a short amount of time. And out of nowhere, as the bus went past us, it just suddenly disappeared. I can't explain it. It didn't fade away. It just disappeared. I hadn't told anyone this story until I recently told my mother, and unlike me, she is very much a believer in the supernatural, and she told me that around the same time she had a dream about her late mother that died the month before I was born, saying to her, "I have to go. I have a bus I have to catch." I know it's a far-fetched theory to assume it was my grandmother, and I don't even know if I believe in it, in all honesty, but all I do know is that I definitely saw something that day, and whatever it wasn't normal as we know normal. Does anyone with more knowledge on these supernatural things have any theories on what my friends and I saw that day? It was a ghost. Kyle goes tour bus to the land of the living. Chris Barber goes the night bus. Daniel goes, don't catch a ride on that bus. Probably like a sea container. Heather whatever goes, ha, what a line. I have to catch the bus. Jen Decker, how's it going? The next one goes, have you ever had a spooky hotel experience? Oh, I guess someone's asking. Someone's just asking. They want to know if you had a spooky hotel experience. Footsteps from the stairs. One night, me and my dad, my stepmother, were watching a film while my 3 little brothers were sleeping. It was about 10:30 p.m., I think. Anyway, me and my stepmother were sitting near the same sofa with the stairs on the right, and my dad was on the sofa in front of us, with the television high on the wall above him. We were tired and about to go to sleep, waiting for the film to finish when I heard some footsteps as if someone was coming down the stairs. At first, I thought it was one of my brothers. In fact, I was looking at the stairs expecting them to come down, but there was no one. So I thought I was just hallucinating. Maybe I was just tired. But then I saw my stepmother turn her head toward the stairs because she too had heard the footsteps. We looked at each other and jumped up to go and check. No one. There was no one. My little brother were sleeping peacefully, and we checked every single corner of the house. My dad didn't hear anything, maybe because he was far from the stairs and the volume of the television had covered it. But we heard very clearly footsteps. They were slow, like those of a child or an old person. I was a little nervous, even though it wasn't the first time something like this happened. Strange noises, shadows, voices breathing, the dog staring and barking at a specific point, and my little sister crying out of nowhere in the middle of the night. Everything connects to the same room. The same room which belonged to the old lady who owned the house before she died. We believe there is something in her house, and I think it's related to her. That's a crazy story. Heather, whatever goes, ooh, a polite ghost? I was on another sub this morning and was reminded of an experience I had a few years ago. Since I took the time to write it out there, I thought I might as well post it here as well. When I moved into my current home, the former owners asked if I'd like to keep a day bed they had because they were moving across the country and didn't have room for it. Very sweet older folks who had lived in the house for 20 years and raised their kids there. One day, a few months after moving in, I took a nap in the day bed in the office where I'd put it. I was sleeping like the dead when I suddenly awoken by a surprised sounding older man's voice saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. So sorry," as if he had walked into the room and stumbled upon me sleeping. I didn't think too much of it. I don't think I even told anyone. A few months later, I moved the daybed into an upstairs bedroom. Once again, I decided to take a nap because the daybed was so comfy and inviting. There was a big sunbeam directly on the bed, and I was happily snoozing away like a cat in the sun. Suddenly, I was awakened from a dead sleep by an old man's voice saying, "Oh, excuse me. I didn't know. Pardon me." There was nothing scary about it. Just seemed like the voice was a surprised old man. But like the first time, it felt 100% like this voice was external to me and was the cause of me waking up. I decided to donate the bed to a local thrift store. I haven't heard that voice since. I think it was connected to the daybed, which makes no sense to me since I knew the previous owners, but who knows? It's been 5 or 6 years and I haven't heard the voice since then. I probably wouldn't have gotten rid of the bed. I mean, it only happened when he slept on it. Pearl Jam goes, per the Smithsonian, it's called a mental illness. I'm kidding. It's a ghost. Ghost on the first floor? Background. While still a young teenager, my family and I moved into an old farm. Nothing creepy or standing out, literally just an old farm. The main farmhouse was bigger than most average houses here, but not overly grand, and was divided into a ground floor and a first floor with access to a storage under the roof. It was located about an hour drive from any major city and about 20 minutes from the local village. When we first moved in, the plan was that my little brother, 5 years younger, and myself would have to share the first room by ourselves. First floor consisted of all we could need: a living room, playroom, 3 bedrooms, toilet, bath, and a semi long hallway. Ground floor had the kitchen area, great living room, dining room, an office area, and a master bedroom connected to a toilet and bath. For context, my father was a great man and had a no BS, see it to believe it kind of type. Even though my family had never denied spirits, fey creatures, or gods, we like to turn to our logic before turning anywhere near the unexplainable, because most things can be explained by wind, temperature, weather, etc. But we've had moments where we lacked explanation, and this is one of those moments. And please, if anyone have any idea how sound of footsteps can appear as loud as your own, please explain, because I truly would like another explanation than it was a ghost. Story. As I mentioned, it was a good place for a family of 4 to divide themselves into, but already from day one, no one, not even my father, wanted to go upstairs. When you stood at the stairs and looked up, you just felt it. Unwelcomed? Like you were in the wrong part of town kind of feeling. At first, we tried going up there, my brother and I, but we couldn't be there for more than a few minutes without bolting down the stairs again, like someone was after us. So, despite the whole first floor being empty, we rather wanted to stay in the office and sleep on our makeshift beds. My parents didn't even want to use the first floor for boxes, they were all just piled up against the wall in the office and living room. Life goes on despite a creepy part of the house, and a week later, we all gathered in the living room for some TV time. We always did this once a week at least. It was a nice, relaxing time until suddenly we heard footsteps above us from the hallway, and we all just sat still listening, kind of disbelieving it and kind of wondering if someone had gotten in through a window. My father made a shush sign for his mouth and got up from his chair, grabbed his sword. I guess he wanted to give whoever was up there a good scare. He then continued over to the stairs, made a last look at us as if I got this, and walked up the stairs. We could hear how his footsteps and whoever was in the hallway was going to meet up where the stairs and hallway met. Then, as you would expect, a loud war cry from my father, shaking the house, and then silent. Nothing. My father returned confused, disbelieving the whole scenario, and then, with the confused words, there was nobody there. He sat the sword in its place and returned to his chair, staring blank at the TV. With renewed courage, my brother and I tried the day after going back up there, and for the first time we had lived there, we got all the way to the living room in the end of the hallway. Seems stupid, but for us, the time it was truly an achievement for true courage. I remember the room was filled with dead flies everywhere and an enclosed smell. We were there for like 30 seconds. Bam! Something like a train running past us hit us in the chest, and we just ran screaming back downstairs. And as in pure horror, screaming for our lives. To our parents, who was running to us thinking someone had broken in. They had heard the bam too. It sounded like a door getting slammed or kicked, though there was no door being closed or kicked at the time. My father, this time, walked upstairs and shouted something like, "Anyone here living or dead? This is my house now. You are under my roof now and follow the command of my rules. Accept it or F off." And funny enough, for some weeks we felt and heard nothing. Suddenly, we were welcomed upstairs. My brother and I started to use the upstairs a little, still sleeping in the office, but we were just glad to not get hunted back downstairs when we were up there. We even cleaned the playroom and moved some Legos and stuff up there. I don't remember why, but one day I had to be home alone. Done it many times, just not that place, and it had never been a problem. That day, it was only a few hours, so I sat down in the living room watching TV to kill time. And then, footsteps from upstairs, walking toward the stairs. I silently grabbed my phone, ran into my parents' bedroom, in true child style, hid under their bed. It seemed like the best hiding spot at the time, since I would have had to pass the stairs to get outside. I laid there as silent as I could and called my parents, all while I could hear the steps walking around the house, now inside the living room and office, which was both connected to the bedroom from separate doors. My parents were almost home and told me to stay on the phone and only say something if someone found me. I guess they didn't want me to give up my location if someone had actually broken in. It felt like hours, but must have realistically only been like 5 to 10 minutes or so. And then bam, front door gets kicked in, and my father runs straight for me, shouting to whoever, "If I find you, I'm gonna rip your spine from your ass." As soon as I heard my father, I remember shouting, "He's in the office." I didn't want my father to get hurt or surprised, but again, nobody was there. This time, my father had enough, and we moved to a new house same week. There was more than just the footsteps going on, closets opening and closing, things falling from shelves, but only the footsteps I haven't been able to explain, as I have with the old closets or bad shelves. We never really talked about it after we left, though we learned that the farmhouse had burned down a month after we moved from there. Sometimes I still think about it and wonder if my father ever saw or felt something up there. That story was crazy. That is a crazy story. What? Pearl Jan goes, living in a haunted house is not fun. Chris Barber goes, I'd rather not find out. Heather, whatever the dad was, great. Sabrina, how's it going? Heather, whatever, great story. What a cool dad. He was a cool dad. Because Most parents would be like, oh, it's just your imagination. But I think because he actually saw something and he knew something was there when he ran upstairs that first time. So it goes, so mom told me, and this honestly freaked me out. So apparently, when I was a couple months old, we lived in an apartment really, really close to a church. And so every night at the same exact time, I would stand up in my crib and stare into the one corner where my sister was sleeping. And so they did a cleansing, all the fancy crystals and all that jazz. And that night, I stopped instantly. It didn't take a few days for me to stop. I stopped instantly. They didn't really explain their story, though. Yeah, Julius is like, that's what I'm thinking. That story was just like, okay, you were staring at the corner, they did all the shabam, and it stopped instantly. So what did you see? Or what did they think you saw? I mean, she was a baby, so she couldn't say what she saw, but they could elaborate a little bit more on that story. All right, I'm going to read one more story and we'll open it up for questions. This one's Dean Road. When I was about 9 years old, our teacher, Mr. Bays, was ill. So for a week, we had a substitute teacher, Mr. Renton Gordon. I cannot adequately describe the man. That is to say, he was a walking caricature. Tweeds, knickerbockers, even pince knees. His syllabus was wholly agreeable to me and my brother in that he simply read to us the entire time. He read ghost stories, the amusing, often anthologized kind. However, one rainy afternoon, he delineated a tale he at least believed to be true, his own ghost story. And it was the story. His niece, having entered society and married to her advantage in a modern way, had purchased a 3-story house on Dean Road in South Shields. Her husband, who was a commercial traveler, had left the move and the furnishing of the place to his wife, which pleased her and did not concern him. On the day they crossed the transom of the place, the dog, a handsome German shepherd, became terribly angered. It drooled and shook. It had to be forced over the threshold, and as the mistress entered the drawing room, the animal fainted and pissed itself. Usually biddable, usually mild, the dog could not be induced to enter any room in the house. It cowered in the hall and was much reduced in body and spirit. This sounds like a Victorian person wrote this. At the time, or like it was written in the Victorian times, I should say. At the time, pressing clothes was achieved by heating a flat iron on the range and using it accordingly. The mistress was at her work when by mischance she laid the tool against the flesh of her arm. The cry of her pain brought the dog by instinct to her side. As it entered the room, its 4 legs buckled beneath it. It opened its mouth wide, but no sound came out. It lunged impotently toward her, and giving out 3 or 4 final breaths, and died. A period of relative peace now descended upon the household. A man absorbed in his work and a woman quite content to allow it. Coals to Newcastle was the saying, and coal gas heated the homes until at least North Sea gas arrived from its headquarters. Better, cleaner, safer. However, a chimney burning coal must be swept before it can carry the light products that paralyze and kill. The Messrs. Shipley and Company were engaged to clean out the flue, but upon their prospecting, they made a terrible discovery. There were 2 of them, still in swaddled clothes, and twins by the look of it, entombed in the chimney breast, the most foul and egregious act perpetrated by person or persons unknown. A priest was fetched and the constable, but what could be done? As well to dig up dinosaurs, sad and inconvenient. 2 days later, our teacher's niece answered and knocked at the door. There stood a gentleman in a suit of clothes. His hat was of the fashion, and he held a good briefcase. "Good morning," she said. The man made no reply. He fixed her with a plain stare as blank as the sun. She looked down. He stood in a pool of water. Water dripped from his cuffs, from the brim of his hat. It clung to the leather case. He began to raise his hand. When, in the scullery, the telephone rang, she turned toward the alarm, and when she turned back, the man was gone. There was a pool of water in the entrance to the hall, even though he had not stepped in. She made sure of that. The day was fine, and of the kind that only late spring can afford, cold and dry. When the telephone rang again, it was her husband's associate, a pale, stupid man who did not deserve his position or his people. He told her to sit down. He asked if there were any children. There had been something unforeseeable. The ferry had gone down. It was hard to explain, but someone would be coming to lay out the details. The body would have to be recovered by professional divers and then moved to Holland. That sounds like something that was written in the Victorian time. That is a crazy story. Guys, what did you think of the stories? Heather whatever goes, yes, another time story. Whoa, scary stories. Julissa goes, the stories were good. Heather whatever goes, my cat staring at something not there, and then the same way at our electric tree topper angel that slowly flapped its wings. Cats tend to do that. They always tend to stare in the corners. And then you look at them, and then they look away. Like, you'll look at where they're looking, and they'll look away. Heather whatever goes, I got shivers 3 times. Kyle goes, the peeing and dying dogs reminded me of Signs. That movie, I've only seen, I gotta sit down and actually watch it, because I don't think I've seen it from beginning to end. I've only seen it in bits and pieces. Chris goes, good job, Lisa, very interesting. Thank you, Chris. Daniel goes, they were good, some were short and to the point. I agree with you, Daniel. Dusty was like, all good, was listening as I cooked fried chicken. Cool. All right, guys, I'm going to open it up for questions, answer, or ask away. Could be anything. Could be horror related. It could be if you saw something, or if you had an experience or something cool that you saw. Heather whatever goes, brevity is the soul of wit, or freaky stories, I suppose. That one, actually, that last one was well written. Because some of them, that's the only problem with Reddit. Sometimes you get, like, we encountered one where it just didn't make any sense. Where it just got straight to the point and didn't give us a buildup. And it sounded, the last one sounded like an old Victorian, like it was written in Victorian times. Because it was like the mistress, the mistress of the house. And a bit confusing. I agree, Heather, whatever. Kyle goes, I remember on one of the stories of something similar happening to me as the stairs story. Oh, wow. Oh, Daniel, yeah, with Clue. The butler did this in the pool room. I like that game, actually. Oh, guys, I forgot to say at the beginning of the stream, Skeleduck is somewhere in this background. Just remind me in about 10 minutes. And I'll reveal his location. I'll give you some time because I forgot to say. Chris Barber, thank you for being a member of the Wolfpack for 8 months. Any plans to get the Tesla and go to the cemetery? I do have plans for that, Chris, and I still need to get it into fruitation. Give me some time. It's just right now. I mean, I have time now, but its problem is it's like the gas money and all that to kind of get to those places is where because I'm making is where it's going to take some time. Because I want to go to all these places, but it's having the money to go to all these places is what the problem is. But I do, Chris, I do plan on doing that. Hearts for Chris, guys, for being a member of the Wolf Pack for 8 months. Heather, whatever, and it goes, it's expensive to rent it. Tesla. It is. I don't know how much it is because I've never looked, but I'm assuming it is. Kyle goes, I didn't have footsteps chase me, but when I was 5 or 6, the house we lived in was a bungalow with a full basement. But unbeknownst to me, there was a hidden staircase that went up from the main floor. Oh, wow. Chris goes, makes sense. Lisa, gas is bad here, but CA is worse. I'm sure. I know California, I think in some places it's almost $8 a gallon. Believe it or not. Dusty goes, understood. It took 60 to fill my tank yesterday. Wow. I mean, I have a little, luckily, I don't have a gas guzzler, but still, it's like the gas prices. And then I know in the summertime, the gas prices here are going to skyrocket because of the summer, the change in fuel from winter to summer is what it's what they're anticipating, but I'm pretty sure it's going to keep going up. That's a crazy, and going back to Kyle's story, that is crazy. That gave me chills reading it. Kyle continues, I opened the door only once, heard footsteps up there in the darkness. I closed and locked the door and never saw anyone open it since then, while we were still living there. Wow. Heather whatever goes, right, my big adventure is to the store and the Dairy Queen. Chris goes, ours got up to $3.89 the other day. Oh my God, Chris, I would take the $3.89. Daniel goes, that reminds me, I still never opened that door where the knocking was. Oh, that's scary too. You know what, Daniel? I don't blame you. I don't think I would either. I know Costco has great gas, but the line. But Daniel peeked in the window though. I mean, at least you did that, Daniel. Most people wouldn't even do that. Dusty goes 5:30, 9:10 here. I think in my area it's about the same, Dusty. But I know in LA, the more you go toward LA, it gets more expensive. I don't know what gas station it was because the person that posted the post that I saw, but it was in Los Angeles and it almost right $8 a gallon. I think they were in downtown. And I know it's just gonna go up once they switch, like I was saying, switch to the summer blend. Daniel goes, the window is right on my back deck. I just had to turn my head and take a quick look. Oh, that's not, I mean, I guess that's not that bad, Daniel. It is, Chris. That's why when I see $3.80 something a gallon, I'll take it. Daniel could be like that father in that story. I like that father. I'm sorry, because I liked him. Kyle goes, the other story I could think of from my childhood was when I was 8 or 9. I lived with my grandparents, and in their basement, there was an old door that connected to an old storage unit for those who. Chris, I remember when gas was that price here, and I was complaining that it was high. So at that time when it was that price here, so no worries, Chris. No worries at all. I think Julius is going, Kyle leaving us hanging. I think he's still typing it out. Thank you, Heather Whatever, for your PayPal. You're a great show host. Thank you, Heather Whatever. I appreciate that. Hearts for Heather Whatever, guys. While I continue Kyle's story, built the town bridge, which started right next to their building. It was an old stone like a cellar and had old photos from hundreds of years ago when the town was first formed. Wow. Those photos were probably cool, Kyle. I don't care how old, I like old photos, so I don't care where they came from. As long as there's no ritual that was done to the photo, I like photos. Kyle continues, the space wouldn't be under the building lot, but further in front of the lot under the road itself. Ooh. Yes, Heather, whatever. No Green Reapers in the pics. Daniel goes, Whiskey Town Lake, California was built on a town. They made the whole town leave. That is crazy. Actually, Heather, whatever, how far do you live from the Nevada border? That's kind of interesting, Daniel. Buildings are still under the water. Oh, that is cool. Sucks and it's cool at the same time. It's been a while since I've been up north. I think the last time I went up north, well, I mean, I went to San Francisco, but I mean, up like at Lake Tahoe area, it's been a while. Daniel goes, Junction City, California has a pond that when the pond gets low, you could see the steeple of a church come out. Oh, wow. Cool. I think I'd be intrigued and freaked out at the same time. I'd be like, wow, it would be cool to see, but kind of freaky at the same time. Or Eerie. Angelica's going, if I'm right about Skeledick's location, that is very sneaky. Sabrina goes, Silverwood Lake by me also has a town underwater. Wow. That is crazy. It'd be cool. I don't know. That would creep me out, though. All right, guys, real quick. Skeleduck's location is right there, right between where my finger is. I kind of put him between the ears of Peep. Kyle continues, the building has long since been demolished and the lot is turned into a sitting green space. My guess is that that room is still there under the road to this day, even after the bridge got rebuilt this past year. Wow. That's cool, Kyle. Dusty goes, I was wrong about the duck. Sabrina goes, the lake is man-made, but I hate that lake a lot of deaths on the water. Ooh. Sad. Maybe it's cursed because of them making it a lake. Wow. All right, guys, any last minute questions before I end this stream? Sabrina also said my mom used to work at the lake, so I heard everything that happened. Ooh. Dusty Lane, old part of Seattle, Pioneer Square is built on old Seattle due to a fire. Wow. Super cool. Daniel wants to believe. They have Dusty also continues. They have tours under the city. Whoa, that sounds cool. Actually, sounds cool. Probably freaky too, in a sense. Wow. All right, guys, I am gonna end the stream here. Thank you for joining me tonight. And I hope you guys have a good one. I'll the next time I'll be live will be Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you guys. Stay spooky, sweet nightmares, and good night, guys. You guys are awesome. See you on the next one.